This is not a motivational video, this is a transformation. A free course designed to help you master your shadow and unlock the true power that lives inside you, the power you've been trained to fear. There will be no fluff, no vague affirmations, only Carl Jung's most profound psychological truth and the direct path to becoming emotionally unshakable. Who should watch until the end? If you've struggled with anxiety, emotional outbursts, guilt, or a constant sense of self-sabotage, if you feel like you're repeating the same destructive patterns, if you carry invisible wounds that weigh on you every day, this is for you. And if you've tried to change through therapy, self-help, even spirituality, but something keeps pulling you back into pain, then this is where your real work begins. What you'll learn. You'll understand what the shadow really is, how it silently shapes your feelings, thoughts, and impulses. Why so many emotional breakdowns are not caused by life, but by what's buried inside you. And most importantly, how to confront, integrate, and transform your shadow into emotional strength. This course won't tell you to just stay positive, because that's how the shadow hides, beneath the mask of forced optimism. Instead, you'll learn how to take your power back, not by denying your darkness, but by mastering it. Not for passive watching. This video is not entertainment. It's a psychological initiation. Pause when needed. Take notes, reflect, re-watch, because, as Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Don't let your unconscious keep making decisions for you. It's time to face it. What is the shadow? Carl Jung called it the shadow. It's everything you've buried. Your anger, your envy, your guilt, your shame, your insecurities, your unmet needs, your darkest fears, your deepest desires, everything you were told was bad, inappropriate, or too much. You pushed it away, repressed it, denied it. But what you repress doesn't disappear. It moves underground, into your unconscious, into the shadow, and from there, it begins to control you. The real reason you suffer emotionally. Why do you sabotage relationships? Why do you stay in jobs that destroy you? Why do you explode in rage or collapse in anxiety for no clear reason? Because your shadow is acting and you're not aware of it. You are not being irrational. You are being possessed by the parts of yourself you refused to face. The shadow is a living part of the personality. It wants to live with you in some form. Carl Jung. If you don't invite it in consciously, it will crash through the door unconsciously. You are not just your good side. You are not only the version of yourself you show to the world, not just the kind, strong, capable version. You are also the jealous version, the weak version, the angry, insecure, needy version. These parts are real, and the more you pretend they're not, the more they control you from the shadows. Wholeness, not perfection. This journey is not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. It's about recognizing that even your darkest emotions carry wisdom, that your rage may contain your power, that your envy may reveal your forgotten dreams, that your fear may protect something sacred inside you. You do not need to destroy the shadow, you need to bring it into the light. The birth of the shadow. To master the shadow, we must understand how it was born, because the parts of you that now sabotage your peace didn't start as flaws, they started as parts of you that were never allowed to exist. The child before the mask. As a child, you were whole. You cried when you were hurt. You yelled when you were angry. You explored, questioned, demanded, expressed. You were raw, real. But then, the world responded. The construction of the acceptable self. From an early age, you were taught what emotions were good and which ones were not. You heard, stop crying. Don't be selfish. Be quiet. Good kids don't get angry. Don't ask for too much. Be strong. Slowly, you learned which parts of yourself earned approval, and which parts brought shame, rejection, or punishment. So you adapted. You pushed down what wasn't safe. That adaptation was survival, but it came at a cost. Where the rejected parts go, the parts of you you silenced didn't disappear. They went into hiding, into the shadow. Anger didn't vanish, it just turned inward as guilt. Desire didn't die, it became shame. Fear wasn't healed, it became anxiety. These parts still live within you, and because they've been denied for so long, they act on their own. What we repress returns in unfamiliar and often destructive ways. Carl Jung paraphrased, "The persona, your social mask." To cope with this, you developed what Jung called the persona, a mask you wear to survive in the world. The polite one, the quiet one, the spiritual one, the strong one, the overachiever, the peacemaker. This persona became your identity. You learned to play a role, but the more committed you are to the mask, the more violent the shadow's return becomes. The cost of the mask. Many people suffer not because their life is bad, but because their identity is a lie. You smile when you want to cry. You agree when your soul says no. You stay silent to be liked. You suppress rage to appear enlightened, and every time you do, you abandon yourself. Over time, this creates emotional exhaustion, chronic anxiety, imposter syndrome, relationship breakdowns, loss of meaning, deep inner emptiness. You wonder, why do I feel numb? Why don't I know who I am anymore? Because you've been playing a part for so long, you forgot who's behind the mask. The shadow reacts. And when your true self has been buried too long, the shadow erupts. Sudden anger outbursts, crippling self-doubt, panic attacks, jealousy, guilt, avoidance, collapse. These are not random flaws. They are your real self trying to break free. The more you silence it, the more it screams. The world becomes a mirror. Here's how you know the shadow is active. You hate in others what you hide in yourself. You overreact emotionally to small triggers. You project guilt, shame, or blame onto people around you. You chase relationships that repeat old emotional wounds. The shadow lives in your reactions. Until you become aware, you'll keep repeating old patterns, calling it fate, bad luck, or other people's fault. Summary of shadow formation. To recap, the shadow is formed in childhood. It contains everything you repressed to be good or acceptable. You built a persona to survive, but the mask created disconnection. And the shadow now acts from the unconscious, shaping your emotions and behavior. The shadow is not necessarily evil. It also contains the seat of creativity and strength, but only if it's brought to light. Carl Jung, How the Shadow Shapes Your Emotions and Decisions. Now that we understand what the shadow is, we must face what it does. The shadow isn't just theory, it acts, daily, invisibly, powerfully. Emotions you can't control. Ever felt an anger that seems disproportionate? A sadness that doesn't match the moment? Anxiety without cause? These are often shadow reactions, not responses to what's outside, but eruptions from what's inside. Carl Jung warned, repressed contents do not cease to exist, they become autonomous forces. Your emotional blow-ups, breakdowns, and guilt spirals are not failures of willpower, they're unconscious contents seizing control. The illusion of choice. You think you're making decisions, but if your shadow isn't integrated, it's deciding for you. You repeat toxic relationships. You sabotage progress, you avoid conflict, then explode later. All of it seems logical in the moment. Until you zoom out and see the pattern. This isn't fate, it's unintegrated emotion acting as fate, the mask that makes you fragile. Much of this chaos is protected, even reinforced by your persona. That's the mask you wear to be liked, accepted, admired. But the more perfect the mask, the more material gets exiled into the shadow. The result, people who appear calm, positive, and in control often suffer in silence, anxiety, depression, explosive rage, emotional exhaustion. The shadow always leaks out, no matter how pretty the mask. To master your emotions, you don't need more self-control. You need more self-awareness. And to build that, you must first recognize you are not just your light, you are also what you've hidden. Confronting the shadow. Recognition is only the beginning. The real transformation begins when you confront the shadow. This is where most people turn away. Because facing the shadow means facing guilt, shame, anger, grief, without flinching. Individuation is not achieved by denying the shadow, but by confronting it with courage. Carl Jung. What confrontation feels like. Suddenly you realize your niceness was fear of rejection, your envy was repressed ambition, your overgiving came from a belief you had to earn love. And it hurts, Because now you see that much of your life was built around hiding. But this discomfort is sacred. It means you're getting real. The phases of confrontation. Denial. That's not me. Resistance. It's not that serious. Shame. I can't believe this is who I am. Acceptance. Yes, it's part of me. Integration. Now I can choose differently. Don't rush this process, but don't retreat from it either. How to confront it. Ask yourself, what am I ashamed to admit about myself? What part of me do I silence to be loved? When I overreact, what wound is being touched? Let these questions open doors, because behind the shadow's pain is your real power, waiting. Archetypes that emerge after confronting the shadow. When you confront your shadow, something deeper stirs. From the unconscious, ancient patterns rise. The archetypes, Carl Jung described them as universal forces within us, and during shadow work, 4 are especially powerful. Anima and animus. These are the feminine and masculine energies within every psyche. They appear in dreams, projections, and relationships. A man may dream of seductive, mysterious women. A woman may sense a critical or commanding male presence. These are not just fantasies. They're the psyche inviting you to embrace your repressed emotional traits. The anima softens the rigid man. The animus strengthens the repressed woman. The self, the archetype of wholeness. It's not who you think you are, but who you're meant to become. After deep inner work, you may feel, a strange peace. A desire to live more honestly. A breakdown of the roles you used to play. This is the self emerging, not to destroy the ego, but to unify it with your depths. The trickster. This one's dangerous. It appears just when you think you've figured it all out. You start feeling superior to others. You claim you're healed and done. You hide your shadow behind spiritual pride. That's not growth. That's the shadow wearing a new mask. The trickster is the shadow's shadow. It mocks your illusions of enlightenment. Carl Jung, paraphrased. Stay humble, stay honest. Growth isn't a destination, it's a spiral. Why go through all this pain? Because the reward is everything you've been seeking. Real emotional strength, not surface-level confidence, but unshakable stability from the inside out. From reaction to response. Before shadow work, you lash out without knowing why. You shrink yourself to be liked. You numb your pain instead of healing it. After integration, you recognize anger before it erupts. You set boundaries without guilt. You act from clarity, not compulsion. The acceptance of the dark side of oneself strengthens the individual. Carl Jung. You stop reacting. You start choosing. Your energy returns. Repression is exhausting. It drains your energy to hide, to pretend, to hold back truth. But when the shadow is accepted, that energy flows back into your life. You feel more alive, more creative, more authentic. You stop asking, how should I be, and start becoming who you really are. Less conflict, more presence. You no longer seek constant validation. You no longer fear your own emotions. You no longer project your wounds onto others. And that changes everything, in relationships, in work, in how you live your day. This is the quiet confidence people feel, but can't explain. It's the presence of someone who has met their darkness and survived it. Daily practices to stay integrated. Shadow work isn't a one-time realization. It's a daily discipline. Even after breakthroughs, the unconscious doesn't sleep. It finds new ways to test you, new masks, new projections. So how do we stay awake? 1. Conscious self-conservation. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Catch yourself in real time, that moment of jealousy, that urge to lie, that snap of irritation. Pause, breathe, ask, what part of me is speaking right now? 2. Reflective journaling. Each day, write one paragraph. What emotion dominated me today? What did I avoid saying or feeling? What might that reveal about my shadow? Writing makes the unconscious visible, and once it's visible, it's no longer in control. 3. Dream awareness. Jung believed dreams are direct portals to the shadow. Keep a journal. Look for recurring figures, confrontations, feelings of fear, shame, or power. Dreams reveal what the ego refuses to admit. 4. Relationship mirrors. Every person we love or hate reflects part of us. Ask, what do I admire that I don't allow in myself? What do I criticize that I secretly repress? The shadow speaks through others, if we're willing to listen. 5. Watch the persona. Even now, your persona wants to hide the messy parts. Regularly ask, what image am I trying to protect? What am I afraid people would see if I drop the act? Authenticity isn't comfort, it's truth with teeth. Why this work is a one-way journey. Once you've seen your shadow, you can't unsee it. Once you've tasted truth, the illusion no longer satisfies. This journey has no off-ramp, and that's not a burden, it's freedom. The door you opened. Maybe you thought you were just learning psychology, but you were beginning something far more dangerous and sacred. You were reclaiming your soul. Now, when the guilt comes, you don't collapse. When rage appears, you don't pretend. When sadness whispers, you listen, not run. This is power, not dominance over others, but sovereignty within yourself. The price of ignoring the shadow. If you stop now, the mask returns, the projections grow, the suffering deepens. People who refuse this work live in cycles, anxiety that won't leave, relationships that repeat. Emptiness that can't be filled, not because life is cruel, but because the unconscious never forgets. But those who continued, they change. They don't become perfect, they become whole. They move through life with presence, they own their fears. They stop needing to be good and start being real. They walk toward the fire and come out cleaner, quieter, more alive. The function of the shadow is to compensate for the one-sided attitude of consciousness. Carl Jung. This is not the end. It's the beginning of your individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are. Final word. If this message stirred something in you, don't run from it. Write in the comments, I'm willing to face my shadow. It's not a slogan, it's a vow, a commitment, not to perfection, but to truth, and truth will set you free.